The giant space station called Nexus Prime floated in the dark between the stars. It was neutral ground where all the big alien races came to talk and make deals. Today was different, though. Today the air felt heavy with anger and fear. Ambassador Sarah Chun sat at the human table in the great council hall. The room was huge with curved walls that went up, so high you could barely see the top. 12 other tables were arranged in a circle around her. Each table had different aliens sitting at it. Some looked like giant insects. Others had blue skin and too many arms. A few looked almost human, but with strange eyes that glowed in the dark. Sarah had been coming to these meetings for 3 years now. At first, the other aliens had been curious about humans. They asked questions about Earth and human culture. But over time, things changed. The questions stopped. The respect disappeared. Now they barely looked at her when she spoke. "The motion before us today is simple," said High Counselor Vexmar. He was a tall creature with gray skin and a voice that sounded like metal scraping against stone. "The Veltar hegemony has proposed new safety measures for the younger races in our galaxy." Sarah knew what that meant. The Veltar were one of the oldest and strongest alien races. When they talked about safety measures for younger races, they really meant control. They wanted to put limits on what humans could do and where they could go. "These measures are necessary," said General Kethver of the Veltar. His species looked like walking lizards with 4 arms and scales that changed color when they got angry. Right now his scales were a deep red. The humans have been expanding too fast. They build colonies without asking permission. They ignore our warnings about dangerous sectors of space. Sarah stood up slowly. "We have followed every law and treaty that exists," she said. Her voice was calm, but inside she was burning with anger. "We ask for permission when it is required. We avoid restricted areas. We have done nothing wrong." "Nothing wrong?" laughed Counselor Drexhigh. From the Synthic Union. The Synthic were machine beings who had once been organic but replaced their bodies with metal and circuits. Your people spread across the galaxy like a disease. You take resources that could be better used by more advanced civilizations. "We trade fairly for everything we take," Sarah replied. "We pay market prices. We follow all regulations." "Market prices set by whom?" asked Ambassador Yithpal of the Draconian Mining Consortium. The Draconians looked like dragons from human fairy tales, but they walked on 2 legs and wore fancy clothes. "Prices set by species who have been civilized for thousands of years. You have barely learned to leave your home planet." Other aliens around the room made sounds that Sarah had learned were laughter. It was not friendly laughter. It was the kind of laugh that came when someone thought they were better than you. "Perhaps," said Counselor Zephihai of the Altarian Collective, "we should remember what we are dealing with here." The Altarians looked the most like humans, but their skin was pale blue and their heads were too large. They thought they were the smartest race in the galaxy. "These humans have only been in space for what, 200 years? My people were building starships when theirs were still living in caves." More laughter filled the room. Sarah felt her hands shake, but she kept them steady on the table. "The proposal is reasonable," continued Zephihai. "We create a buffer zone around human space. No human ships beyond that zone without permission from this council. No new human colonies without our approval. No human trade agreements that we have not reviewed first." "That would destroy our economy," Sarah said. "Half our colonies depend on trade with other species. You would be trapping us in a box." "Safe box," said General Kethver. "A box where you cannot cause trouble for civilized species." "We cause no trouble," Sarah said louder. "We follow your rules. We respect your territories. We ask for nothing but the same treatment you give each other." "The same treatment?" Zephihai stood up at his table. His large head turned toward Sarah, and his pale eyes looked at her like she was some kind of bug. "You want the same treatment? Your barely evolved primates playing at civilization. Your entire species has existed for what? A few 100,000 years? My people have records going back millions of years." The room exploded with laughter. Not just a few chuckles, but real deep laughter that echoed off the curved walls. Sarah looked around the circle of tables. Every alien was laughing at her. Even the ones who usually stayed quiet were making their species' version of laughter sounds. Primates, repeated Ambassador Yithpal between laughs. That is perfect. Do they even understand what we are talking about? Asked another voice from somewhere in the room. Perhaps we should speak slower, said another, or use smaller words. The laughter got louder. Sarah felt something cold spread through her chest. This was not just disrespect. This was pure contempt. They did not see humans as equals. They did not even see humans as worthy of basic dignity. She looked at each table slowly. The insect-like Zenthak were clicking their mandibles in amusement. The energy beings from the Void Collective were pulsing with colors that she knew meant they were enjoying themselves. Even the usually serious quantum monks were making soft humming sounds that was their way of laughing. Sarah Chun had been a diplomat for 15 years. She had negotiated with hostile governments on Earth. She had prevented wars and saved lives through careful words and patient compromise. But right now she felt something she had never felt before in a diplomatic setting. She felt hate. Pure burning hate for every creature in this room, but she did not show it. Instead, she reached down and picked up her data pad from the table. She unplugged her translator device from the table's connection port. She gathered her papers into a neat pile. The laughter was starting to die down as the aliens noticed what she was doing. Ambassador Chun, said High Counselor Vexmar, where are you going? We have not finished the vote yet. Sarah looked at him. Then she looked around the room one more time. Her face showed nothing. No anger, no hurt, no fear. Nothing at all. She turned and walked toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet. Ambassador, called General Kethfer, the vote. Do you not wish to speak against the proposal? Sarah reached the great doors of the council chamber. She turned back one last time and looked at the curved room full of alien faces staring at her. No, she said simply. I do not. Then she walked out and the doors closed behind her with a soft hiss. Back in the chamber, the aliens looked at each other with confusion. A few made jokes about humans being dramatic. Others wondered if they had been too harsh. But most just shrugged and moved on to the vote. The proposal passed unanimously. 3 hours later, Sarah Chun's ship left Nexus Prime. By the next morning, every human diplomat had left Council territory. By the end of the week, every human trader had closed their businesses and gone home. Within a month, every human colony had stopped answering communication signals. The humans had left without another word, and the galaxy suddenly felt much quieter than it had before. 6 months had passed since the humans left. At first, the council members were happy about it. They told themselves they had solved a problem. The annoying young species had finally learned their place and gone home where they belonged. High Counselor Vexmar stood in his private office looking out at the stars through a massive window. Nexus Prime felt different now, quieter. He told himself this was good, but something in his stomach felt wrong. Sir, said his aide, a nervous little creature called a pippling, the trade reports are ready. Vexmar took the data pad and read through the numbers. His gray face grew darker as he read. Trade volumes were down 18% across all major routes. Shipping costs had gone up by almost 30%. How is this possible? He asked. Well, sir, the pippling squeaked, it turns out the humans controlled several key shipping lanes. When they left, we had to find new routes. The new routes are longer and more dangerous. Vexmar threw the pad onto his desk. They were just one small species. How could they affect trade this much? The pippling did not answer because he did not know either. On the other side of the galaxy, General Kethfer of the Veltar hegemony was having his own problems. He stood in the war room of his flagship looking at a map of the galaxy. Red dots showed where his ships were positioned. There were fewer red dots than there should be. Report? He growled at his intelligence officer. Sir, we have lost contact with 12 patrol ships in the Outer Rim sectors, all in areas that used to be near human space. Lost contact how? They simply stopped reporting, sir. No distress signals, no signs of battle, they just went quiet. Kethvera's scales shifted to a worried yellow color. Send search teams. We already did, sir. The search teams found nothing. No wreckage, no energy signatures. No signs of the ships. We're ever there. That is impossible. Yes, sir. That is what we thought too. In the Draconian Mining Consortium headquarters, Ambassador Yithpal was having an emergency meeting with the board of directors. The dragons sat around a golden table. That was worth more than most planets. Our profits are down 40%, said board chairman Mortax. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. 40% in 6 months. This is unacceptable. It is not my fault, Yithpal said quickly. How was I supposed to know the humans were so important to our supply chains? You were supposed to know. Because that is your job, snapped Director Valandra. The humans were our biggest customers for rare metals. They also provided transport services for 60% of our shipments to the outer colonies. They were just primitive primates, Yithpal protested. How could primitive primates be so important? Primitive primates who apparently ran half? The shipping in this galaxy, Mortax said coldly. And now they are gone and our profits are gone with them. The Altarian Collective was having problems too, but theirs were different. Counselor Zephyrhai sat in his laboratory reading reports. That made no sense. These numbers cannot be correct, he said to his research assistant. I have checked them 5 times, Counselor. They are correct. The reports showed that 7 of their most secret research facilities had been broken into, but nothing was stolen. Instead, every computer system showed signs of being completely accessed and copied. Every file had been read, every database had been downloaded. But whoever did it had been so careful that the security systems never even noticed. This level of technical skill, Zephyrhai muttered. It should be impossible. Our security was designed by the best minds in the collective. Yes, sir. But someone got through it like it was not even there. Who could do such a thing? His assistant did not answer because they both knew there was no good answer to that question. Strange reports were coming in from all over the galaxy. Deep space monitoring stations detected huge energy signatures moving in the dark between star systems. But when ships went to investigate, they found nothing. The Synthic Union reported that their long-range probes in unexplored sectors had stopped working. When they sent ships to check on the probes, they found them floating in space completely, drained of power. Their memory cores were wiped clean, but the probes themselves were undamaged. It is like someone sucked all the energy out of them, reported Chief Engineer Nullbite to the Synthic Council, but left everything else perfectly intact. What could do such a thing? Asked Prime Node Axiom Prime. I do not know. Our probes were designed to resist energy drain from space storms and solar flares. Whatever did this was much more powerful. The Zenthic corporate states discovered that their experimental weapons research had somehow been copied. Prototypes of their newest plasma cannons started showing up in the hands of their competitors, but there was no way to trace where the copies came from. Our security was perfect, insisted Chief Security Officer Clakedith. No one could have accessed those files, yet someone did, replied CEO Zixmuth. Someone with technology we do not understand. A year after the humans left, the first really scary discovery was made. A Veltar expansion fleet pushed into what used to be human territory. They expected to find abandoned colonies that they could claim for themselves. What they found instead made General Kethver's scales turn white with fear. The planets were empty but not abandoned. They had been strip-mined with impossible precision. Every useful mineral had been extracted. Every piece of metal had been taken. Even the water had been harvested from the oceans, but there was no environmental damage, no poisoned soil, no destroyed ecosystems. It was like someone had reached down and carefully selected every atom they wanted and taken only those atoms. This is not possible with any technology we know, reported Fleet Commander Silthic. To extract resources this completely without damaging anything else would require technology centuries ahead of our own. The humans did not have such technology, Kethver said. No, sir. They did not. At least, we thought they did not. More disturbing reports came in over the following weeks. The quantum monks detected massive construction projects happening in the deep void between galaxies. Energy signatures that suggested the building of structures larger than space stations. Larger than anything anyone had ever built. The Void Collective reported that their energy sensors were picking up power sources that should not exist. Sources that generated more energy than small stars but gave off no light or heat. Someone is building something out there, reported Collective Node 7 to the Council. Something big? Who? Asked High Counselor Vexmar. We do not know. But whoever they are, they have technology that makes ours look like stone tools. Counselor Zephahai was becoming obsessed with the mystery. He spent his days studying the break-ins at Altarian research facilities. The more he learned, the more frightened he became. Whoever did this knew our systems better than we do, he told his research team. They access files that even most of our own people cannot access. They understood our security protocols perfectly. Could it be another council member? Asked his assistant. No, this level of understanding would take decades of study. And look at these access patterns, he pointed to data on his screen. They did not just copy our research, they copied everything. Our entire computer network was read like a book. What were they looking for? I do not think they were looking for anything specific. I think they were learning. Learning everything we know. The most chilling report came from the Outer Rim territories. A trading post called Haven's Rest had been found empty. Not destroyed. Not abandoned. Empty, like everyone had simply vanished in the middle of their daily routines. Food was still on tables, drinks were still cold, computer terminals were still logged in. But every person was gone. The only clue was a message written on the wall of the main trading hall in perfect galactic standard. They called us primitive. We are learning what advanced really means. Back on Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vexmar called an emergency session of the Council. For the first time in a year, they were meeting to talk about the humans. We may have made a mistake, he said to the assembled delegates. A mistake? Counselor Zephahai laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. We mocked them and they disappeared. Now our trade routes are failing, our security is being breached, and our ships are vanishing. If this is a mistake, it is the biggest mistake in galactic history. They were primitive, insisted General Kethver, though his scales showed he was not as sure as he sounded. Were they? Asked Ambassador Yithpal. Or did we just think they were? The room fell quiet. For the first time since the humans left. The council members were starting to wonder if they had been wrong about everything. A full year had passed since Ambassador Sarah Chun walked out of the council chamber. The galaxy was falling apart. On Nexus Prime, High Counselor Vexmar stared at reports that made no sense. The galactic economy was not just struggling anymore. It was collapsing. Supply chains that had worked for centuries were broken. Trade agreements between species were failing because the humans were not there to help transport goods or provide translation services. How did we miss this? He asked. His chief economic advisor, a four-armed creature called a Takanari. Sir, the humans were involved in everything. They were not just traders. They were the glue that held many of our business relationships together. When they left, thousands of agreements fell apart. But they were so young, so primitive. Were they, sir? Or did they just let us think they were? That question was being asked all over the galaxy now. In the Veltar Hegemony Military Command, General Kethver was losing ships faster than he could count them. 30% of his deep space fleet had simply vanished. His remaining captains were afraid to patrol the outer sectors. Sir, reported his new intelligence chief, we have confirmed losses of 47 ships in the past 3 months. All disappeared in areas that used to be near human space. Any signs of battle? Any wreckage? Nothing, sir. They just stopped reporting and are never seen again. Kethver's scales had turned a sick gray color. He had been a warrior for over 200 years, but this was something he did not understand. What about our sensor networks? Surely they detect something. That is the strange part, sir. Our sensors show energy readings that are off the scale, power signatures that should not be possible. But when we send ships to investigate, the readings disappear. As if someone is watching our sensors and hiding when we get close? Yes, sir. Exactly like that. The Altarian Collective was dealing with something even worse. Their most secure research facilities continued to be penetrated by unknown intruders. But now, the intruders were not just copying information. They were leaving things behind. Counselor HFY stood in Laboratory 7 looking at a device that should not exist. It was sitting on the main research table like someone had just placed it there during the night. When did this appear? He asked his security chief. We found it this morning, sir. All security systems were normal. No alarms, no signs of break-in. It was just there. The device was small and silver and hummed with energy. HFY's instruments could not figure out what it was made of or how it worked. But when they activated it, it projected a hologram that showed the complete plans for their most secret weapons project. This is impossible, HFY whispered. These plans are stored in computers that are not connected to any network. They are in a vault 3 levels underground surrounded by energy shields. Yes, sir. But whoever left this device knows every detail. The hologram flickered and new information appeared. Technical improvements to their weapons that made them 10 times more powerful. Design changes that solved problems their best scientists had been working on for years. They are not just copying our work, HFY realized. They are improving it and then giving it back to us. Sir, why would someone do that? HFY felt a chill run down his spine. To show us how much smarter they are than we thought we were. The Draconian Mining Consortium was facing a different kind of problem. Their profits had not just dropped. They had completely disappeared, but that was not the scary part. The scary part was that someone was offering to sell them their own minerals. Bored. Chairman Mortax read the message that had appeared on his desk that morning. It was written in perfect Draconian and offered to sell rare metals to the consortium at prices far below market value. These are our minerals, he told the board meeting. The chemical signatures match exactly with metals from our own mines. But our mines are still producing normally. How is that possible? Asked Director Valandra. Someone has found a way to duplicate our minerals perfectly. Or they have access to the same mineral sources we do. But we control all the major mining operations in this sector. Do we? Mortax asked quietly. Or do we just think we do? The message had included coordinates for a meeting place in deep space. Against his better judgment, Mortax had sent a ship to investigate. What they found there changed everything. Massive mining operation was running in an asteroid field that should have been empty. Ships the size of cities were processing asteroids with technology that made draconian equipment look like children's toys. The entire asteroid field was being consumed and turned into refined metals and manufactured goods. Sir, the ship captain had reported, the operation is producing more refined materials in one day than our entire corporation produces in a month. Who is running it? We do not know, sir. When we tried to get closer, our ship system started failing. We had to retreat. But before they left, they managed to record one thing. Ships leaving the mining operation. Ships with designs that looked almost familiar but more advanced than anything in Council space. Ships that might once have been built by humans. The Synthic Union discovered that their artificial intelligence networks had been completely compromised. But not damaged. Improved. The Prime Node Axiom Prime ran diagnostic after diagnostic, but could not understand what had happened. Their computer systems were working better than ever before. Processing speeds had increased by 300%. Problem-solving capabilities had improved beyond measurement. Someone has rewritten our base code, reported Chief Engineer Nullbite. But we cannot figure out how they did it or what they changed. Are we in danger? I do not think so. The changes seem to be improvements. Our systems are more efficient, more powerful, more stable. It is like someone took our technology and fixed all the problems we did not even know we had. But who could do such a thing? Someone with understanding of artificial intelligence far beyond our own. And the most disturbing reports came from the edge of the galaxy. Deep space explorers found evidence of massive construction projects in the void between star systems. Structures so large they had their own gravity fields. Power sources that generated energy on the scale of stars. Whatever they are building out there, reported Captain Zorthik of the exploration vessel Starfinder. It is bigger than anything we have ever seen. The energy readings suggest construction on the scale of an entire solar system. Construction of what? We do not know. But sir, the materials being used include elements that do not exist in nature. Somebody is creating new forms of matter. Hi. Counselor Vexmar called another emergency council session. This time even more species attended. The fear was spreading beyond the original council members. We need to face the truth, Vexmar said to the assembled delegates. The humans were never what we thought they were. They seem so primitive, protested General Kethver. Their technology was centuries behind ours, was it? Asked Counselor Zephahai. Or were they hiding their real capabilities? But why would they do that? To study us. To learn from us. To let us think we were superior while they figured out all our weaknesses. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. You are saying they were spying on us, said Ambassador Yithpal. For years, I'm saying they were learning from us. Every trade agreement, every technology exchange, every time we showed them our capabilities, they were studying and improving. But they asked for help with basic problems. They needed our guidance with simple technologies. Did they? Or did they want us to think they needed our help? Prime Node Axiom Prime spoke up. Analysis of human behavior patterns suggests high probability of deception. Their questions were always about things they could have figured out themselves. But they let us feel superior by teaching them. They made us think we were the advanced ones, Zephahai continued, while they were actually the ones learning and growing and becoming something we could not imagine. So what are they now? Asked General Kethver. Before anyone could answer, every communication system in the chamber activated at once. Screens lit up. Speakers crackled to life. And a voice they all recognized filled the room. Honored council members, said the voice of Sarah Chun, we need to talk. But her voice was different now, stronger, more confident. And underneath it was something that made every alien in the room feel suddenly very small and very afraid. We have been away for exactly 1 year, 2 months, and 16 days. We have learned much in that time. We have grown. We have changed. And now we are ready to discuss new terms for our relationship. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in complete silence. Outside the station, sensors detected the arrival of ships, many ships. Ships that appeared from nowhere and took positions around Nexus Prime. Ships that were clearly of human design. But unlike anything the Council had ever seen before, the humans had returned and they were no longer the species that had been mocked and dismissed a year ago. They were something else entirely. The human ships appeared around Nexus Prime like ghosts becoming solid. One moment the space around the station was empty. The next moment it was filled with vessels that looked like they had been built by gods. High Counselor Vexmar stood at the observation deck watching the ships take positions. His gray hands shook as he counted them. 50, 100, 200. They kept appearing until the entire station was surrounded. Sir, his aide squeaked, our sensors cannot get proper readings on those ships. The energy signatures are off the scale. The human vessels were beautiful and terrible at the same time. They were larger than anything in the council fleets, but moved with impossible grace. Their hulls seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal. Lights pulsed along their surfaces in patterns that hurt to look at directly. They are not just ships, whispered General Kethver, who had arrived on the observation deck. His scales had turned completely white. They are something else. Something beyond our understanding. The main communication screen activated and Sarah Chun appeared. But she was not the same woman who had walked out of the council chamber 2 years ago. She wore a uniform that seemed to be made of starlight. Itself, Her eyes held knowledge that looked ancient and terrible. "Council members," she said, and her voice carried power that made the station's walls vibrate. "I am Fleet Admiral Chun now. We have much to discuss." "Ambassador," High Counselor Vexmar tried to say, but she cut him off. "I am no longer an ambassador. Ambassadors represent one government to another. We are no longer the same species you once knew, and you are no longer our equals." The words hit the assembled council members like physical blows. Counselor Zephahai stepped forward, his large blue head tilted in confusion. "What do you mean? You are still human. We are still the same species we were." Sarah smiled, but it was not a friendly expression. "Are we? Let me show you what we have learned." The space around Nexus Prime suddenly filled with light. Not harsh light that blinded, but soft light that revealed. And what it revealed made every alien in the station gasp in terror. The human ships were not alone. Scattered throughout the space around them were the remains of vessels from every council species. Veltar warships torn apart and rebuilt into something new. Altarian research ships expanded and improved beyond recognition. Draconian mining platforms transformed into massive factories. "Every ship you sent to look for us," Sarah said calmly. "Every probe you launched into our former territory. Every spy you tried to place in our path, we found them all. We studied them all. We learned from them all." "You destroyed our ships," General Kethver growled, though his voice shook. "We did not destroy them. We improved them. Your crews are safe and well. In fact, they have been helping us understand your technologies. They have been quite cooperative once we explained the situation to them." A new screen activated showing the interior of one of the transformed ships. Veltar soldiers were working alongside humans, but they looked different, healthier, stronger. Their scales had a new shine and their eyes held intelligence that seemed sharper than before. "What have you done to them?" Kethver demanded. "We have given them what they never knew they were missing. Just as we learned from you, we have taught them to learn from us. The difference is that we offer our knowledge freely while you hoarded yours." Counselor Zephahai was studying the readings from his instruments. His face had gone pale with shock. "The energy levels from your ships, they are impossible. You would need the power output of an entire star to generate those readings." "We have the power output of several stars," Sarah replied simply, "along with energy sources that your science cannot yet comprehend." "How?" The question came from Ambassador Yithpal. "How did you advance so far so quickly?" Sarah's expression became thoughtful. "You called us primitive. You said we were barely evolved primates playing at civilization." "You were partially correct. We were playing, but not at civilization. We were playing a game much larger than you could imagine." The main screen changed to show a map of the galaxy, but it was not the galaxy the council members knew. This map showed connections between star systems that should not exist, travel routes through dimensions that had never been discovered, and at the center of it all, structures that dwarfed planets. For 300 years since we first left Earth, we have been preparing for this moment. Every human colony you thought you knew about was real. But for every colony you knew about, we had 10 that you did not. While you saw a young species struggling to find its place, we were building a civilization that spanned multiple galaxies. "Impossible," breathed Prime Node Axiom Prime. "Our sensors would have detected such construction." "Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect. We studied your technology for decades before we ever made contact. We knew how to hide from your instruments before we even introduced ourselves." General Kethver found his voice. "You have been deceiving us from the beginning. We have been surviving. Do you know what we learned from our first contact with galactic civilization? We learned that the galaxy is filled with species who think they are superior to everyone else, species who would destroy any threat to their dominance before it could grow strong enough to challenge them." Sarah gestured and new images appeared, ancient ruins, dead worlds, civilizations that had been wiped out completely. "We found the records of 17 species that tried to join your council in the past 1,000 years. Species that were too different Too ambitious or too successful. Where are they now? The council chamber was silent. Gone, destroyed, eliminated because they threatened the established order. We realized that if we appeared as advanced as we really were, you would have united to destroy us before we could defend ourselves. So you pretended to be primitive, HFY said slowly. We pretended to be what you expected us to be, young, eager to learn, grateful for your guidance. And while you were feeling superior and teaching us your basic technologies, we were studying everything about you, your strengths, your weaknesses, your fears. The images on the screen changed again. This time they showed the inside of Altarian research facilities, Veltar military bases, Draconian corporate headquarters. Every secret the council species thought they had was displayed for all to see. You penetrated all our security, HFY whispered. Your security was designed to keep out other council species. It was never designed to keep out a species that understood your psychology better than you understood it yourselves. But why reveal yourselves now? Asked High Counselor Vexmar. You could have continued the deception. Sarah's expression became cold. Because you made a mistake, you pushed too far. When you voted to cage us like animals, when you laughed at us like we were entertainment, you showed us your true nature. And we decided it was time to show you ours. What do you want from us? The question came from Ambassador Yithpal, and her voice was barely a whisper. Want? Sarah seemed amused. We do not want anything from you. We are beyond wanting things. From species like yours. Then why are you here? To offer you a choice. The same choice you once offered us. Accept your place in the New Order or be left behind. New Order? The galaxy is changing. While you have been fighting over trade routes and mining rights, we have been making contact with powers you cannot imagine. The precursors, the ancient builders of the hyperspace network, are not extinct as you believed. They have been waiting in dimensions beyond your perception for a species worthy of their knowledge. The station shook as something massive passed nearby. Through the observation windows, the council members could see a ship that was less a vessel than a moving piece of space itself. Reality bent around it like fabric. They found us worthy, Sarah continued. Not because we were the strongest or the smartest, but because we understood something you never did. True advancement is not about dominating others. It is about growing. Beyond the need to dominate. And now you dominate us, General Kethver said bitterly. No, now we offer you the same opportunity we were given. Learn, grow, become more than you are. Or remain as you are and be left behind while the rest of the galaxy moves beyond you. What if we refuse? Sarah's smile returned, but this time it held sadness instead of coldness. Then you will have the same fate as the species who refused. To adapt when we first arrived in this galaxy. You will become a footnote in someone else's history? The communication ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Outside, the human ships waited like patient gods, offering salvation to those wise enough to accept it and promising irrelevance to those too proud to change. The species that had once mocked humanity as primitive primates now faced a choice that would determine whether they had a future at all. 3 months had passed since the human fleet appeared around Nexus Prime. The galaxy had changed in ways that the old council could never have imagined. High Counselor Vexmar sat in his office, but it was no longer his office. The walls now pulsed with soft light that seemed to respond to his thoughts. His desk was made of a material that could become any tool he needed just by thinking about it. The window showed not just the stars outside, but views of other dimensions that existed alongside normal space. All of this had been given to him freely by the humans. He had not asked for it, he had not earned it. They had simply appeared one. They and improved everything around him. Sir, his pippling aide said, though the little creature looked different now too. Healthier, stronger, his tiny eyes sparkled with intelligence that had not been there before. Fleet Admiral Chun is here to see you. Sarah Chun entered the room, but she moved differently than she had 3 months ago. She seemed to glide rather than walk. Her uniform shifted colors like living starlight. When she looked at him, Vexmar felt like she could see through time itself. Counselor, she said, and her voice carried harmonics that made the room itself seem to sing. How are you adjusting to the changes? I do not understand any of this, Vexmar said honestly. My people live longer now. Our technology works better? Our ships can travel distances that should be impossible. But we did nothing to earn these improvements. You existed, Sarah said simply. That was enough, but why? After how we treated you, why help us? Sarah sat down across from him, and for a moment she looked almost like the human ambassador who had walked out of the council chamber 2 years ago. Almost, but not quite. There was something in her eyes now that was older than stars. Because we learned something from the precursors that you never understood. Power is not about controlling others. True power is about lifting others up to your level. The Veltar do not see it that way, neither do the Draconians. No, they do not. And that is why they are no longer relevant. Vexmar knew what she meant. The Veltar hegemony still existed, but it was no longer a military power. Their weapons had become useless overnight when human technology made war itself obsolete. Ships could no longer attack each other because the humans had released defensive systems that made violence impossible on a galactic scale. General Kethfer had tried to fight it first. He had ordered his remaining fleets to attack the human ships, but when his weapons fired, they simply passed through the human vessels like they were firing at ghosts. In return, the humans had done something to his ships that made them better. Faster, more efficient, more comfortable for their crews. The message was clear. Violence was no longer an option in this new galaxy. What happened to General Kethfer? Vexmar asked. He is learning, Sarah replied. Some of your people adapt quickly to change. Others need more time. We are patient, and if they never adapt, then they will be left behind while the rest of the galaxy moves forward. The Draconian Mining Consortium had been the first to fully embrace the changes. When they realized that human technology could create any material they needed from basic matter, they had abandoned traditional mining entirely. Now they worked with the humans to build structures that spanned solar systems. Ambassador Yithpal had become one of humanity's most vocal supporters. She traveled the galaxy telling other species about the wonders of human technology and the benefits of cooperation. The Draconians were always practical, Sarah explained. When they saw that fighting us was pointless and joining us was profitable, they made the obvious choice. And the Altarians? Sarah's expression became thoughtful. Counselor HFY is more complicated. His people pride themselves on their intelligence. Accepting that we are more advanced than they are challenges their entire identity. HFY had locked himself in his laboratory for 2 months after the humans returned. He emerged only recently, and when he did, he looked like a different person. His large blue head seemed somehow smaller. His eyes held a sadness that had not been there before. He realized something, didn't he? Vexmar asked. He realized that everything his people thought they knew about science and technology was wrong. We gave him access to precursor knowledge, and it broke his understanding of reality. Is he dangerous? No, he is humbled. Perhaps for the first time in his life, HFY understands that there are things in the universe much greater than himself. The Synthic Union had adapted differently than anyone expected. When the humans offered to upgrade their artificial intelligence networks, the Synthic had been suspicious at first. But when they saw what the upgrades could do, they had embraced the changes completely. Prime Node Axiom Prime now existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. He could process information from across the galaxy in real time. He had become something between a machine intelligence and a god, and he seemed very happy about it. The Synthic were already partly artificial, Sarah explained. Adding precursor technology to their systems was like giving them wings when they had only known how to crawl. And what about us? What about my people? Your people are adapting. Well, the Pipplings were always good at learning new things. Now they have the tools to learn anything they want. It was true. The Pipplings had taken to human technology like they were born for it. They had become the galaxy's new teachers, helping other species understand the changes that were happening around them. There's something I need to ask you, Vexmar said carefully. The humans who are working with us now, are they still human? Sarah was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was very soft. Define human. I mean, are you still the same species that left Earth all those years ago? We have the same basic genetic structure. We remember being what you would call human. But we have grown beyond the limitations of biological existence. We can exist in multiple dimensions. We can live for thousands of years. We can create matter from energy and energy from thought. So you are not human anymore. We are what humans became when they were given the chance to grow without limits. And you want to make us like you? We want to give you the same opportunities we were given. Whether you use those opportunities is up to you. Vexmar looked out his window at the transformed galaxy. Ships that could travel between dimensions moved alongside vessels that existed as pure energy. Stations the size of planets floated in space where there had been empty void before. Species that had been enemies for centuries now worked together on projects that spanned multiple star systems. What about those who refuse to change? He asked. They still exist. We have not harmed them. But they live in the old galaxy while everyone else lives in the new one. That seems cruel. Is it cruel to let someone choose their own path? We offered them the same choice we offered everyone else. Some chose to grow. Others chose to stay as they were. And what about revenge? You could have destroyed us all four. What we did to you. Sarah stood up and walked to the window. For a moment she looked almost sad. Revenge would have made us no better than you were. The precursors taught us that the greatest victory is not defeating your enemies. It is making your enemies unnecessary. By becoming so powerful that nothing can threaten you. By growing beyond the need to have enemies at all. She turned back to him, and her eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire universes. Do you know what the most important thing the precursors taught us was? What? That there are always greater powers in the universe. Always something bigger and more advanced than whatever you think is the most powerful thing that exists. The key to survival is not to try to be the strongest. It is to be worthy of the attention of those greater powers. And they found you worthy. They found us curious, willing to learn, willing to change, willing to help others grow instead of keeping them down. Sarah moved toward the door, but before she left, she turned back one more time. Your people called us barely evolved primates playing at civilization. They were right about one thing. We were playing, but we were not playing at civilization. We were playing at becoming something civilization could not even imagine. And now? Now we are that something. And so can you be, if you choose? After she left, Vexmar sat alone in his transformed office. Outside his window, the galaxy continued, its evolution into something magnificent and strange. Species that had once fought over scraps now worked together to build wonders that defied the laws of physics. The humans had kept their promise. They had not destroyed their enemies. They had made their enemies irrelevant by growing so far beyond them that the old conflicts no longer mattered, and in doing so, they had proven that sometimes the greatest revenge is simply becoming everything. Your enemies said you could never be. The galaxy belonged to humanity now. But they shared it freely with anyone willing to grow alongside them. It was. Vexmar realized exactly what they had always planned to do.